Hello, hello. Is the microphone work? Whoa, that's louder than usual. You can all hear me, I'm guessing.
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, it's great to see everyone, especially on this cloudy day. There's so much color. There is pinks and reds and oranges and blues and purples, and I mean, Kim, our feature today, has some fabulous pink on as well, so yeah, it's exciting to see. So yeah, today we are featuring the wonderful poet Kim Dower, who this is my first meeting with Kim as well, and we've only met recently via email correspondence, so I'm very happy to have Kim here to read, and I find Kim's poetry very visceral, evocative, approachable, and she manages to bring you into these deep, serious topics through humor and through invitation. So I'm very happy to have the poetry that I've read of Kim's animated by her voice and her breath. So for an official bio, Kim Dower was City Poet Laureate of West Hollywood from October 2016 to October 2018. She has published 5 highly acclaimed collections of poetry. Her newest book, I Wore This Dress Today for You, Mum, April 2022, was called A Fantastic Collection by the Washington Post. Shelf Awareness says, widely admired for her ability to texturize the everyday with the sublime, Kim Dower captures with poetic grace exquisite remembrances of childhood with vibrant imagery. These gorgeous gems are energized by the sheer power of her wit and irreverent style. Kim's work has been described by the Los Angeles Times as sensual and evocative, seamlessly combining humor and heartache, and by O Magazine as unexpected and sublime. Her collection, Sunbathing on Tyrone Power's Grave, won the 2020 Independent Publishers Book Award Gold Medal for Poetry. Kim teaches poetry workshops for the UCLA Extension Writers Program and the West Hollywood Library. You can find her at www.kimdowerpoetry.com. And as this community is increasingly known for, let us very warmly welcome the vibrant Kim Dower. All right, and we'll do a Q&A afterwards. Just
Wow, you people are crazy. Poetry at 11 on Sunday morning. Come out of your houses and that's amazing.
Saturday.
Oh, it's Saturday.
even more
I have
crazy.
to leave. I have an appointment. Totally forgot about. Let's just say when the Barbie movie came out and I was choosing what to wear, all I had to do was open my closet and just pick whatever was looking at me. Everyone's like, so much pink. Someone actually said to me once, are you gonna always wear pink, like for the rest of your life? And I wrote a poem about it, which I'm not gonna read. But anyway, before a reading, I always try to choose my playlist and time it. And then I think, I have no idea who's gonna be there, what it's gonna feel like, what the mood's gonna be. So then I end up doing something like this and bringing this. And now I have to choose, and I'm thinking, do these people want funny? Do they want sad? I don't know what you people want. So I have a little of everything. I'll start with, I have some greatest hits at this point, lucky me, like I've been reading enough and that people actually say, oh, I remember that poem. So I'll read a couple of what are for a poet to have greatest hits is an oxymoron, so I say that with small g and small h. This is a poem called Bottled Water, and it's made its rounds. It's been in a lot of anthologies. It was read by Garrison Keillor on the Writer's Almanac. and I'll read it and then I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Bottled water. I go to the corner liquor store for a bottle of water. Middle of a hectic day, must get out of the office, stop making decisions, quit obsessing. Does my blue skirt clash with my hot pink flats? Should I get my mother a caregiver or just put her in a home? And I pull open the glass refrigerator door and confronted by brands: Arrowhead, Glitter Geyser, Deer Park, Spring, Summer, Winter Water, and clearly the bosses of bottled water, real water, and smart water. How different will they taste? If I drink smart water, will I raise my IQ but be less authentic? If I choose real water, will I no longer deny the truth, but will I attract confused, needy people who will take advantage of my realness by dumping their problems on me? And will I be too stupid to help them sort through their murky dilemmas? I take no chances. Buy them both. Sparkling smart, purified real, drain both bottles. Look around to see, is anyone watching? I'm now brilliantly hydrated, both real and smart. My insides bubble with compassion and intelligence as I walk the streets with a new swagger, knowing the world is mine. Thank you. I will say that the greatest moment of my poetic life was after this was on Garrison Keillor. I got an email from an 8th grade teacher in the middle of the country somewhere, and she said, I teach an advanced poetry class, 8th grade class, and we heard your poem this morning, and the class has been arguing, is it a funny poem or a serious poem? And what's the point? And is this what she's saying? And would you mind, and I did it was before Zoom, and I did a phone call with the class, and each one of them would get up and say what they thought, and it was just amazing to me. So I will say that in the classes that I teach, it's always about prompts, because my feeling is there's a poem everywhere you look. There's a poem, and everything's a prompt. So of course bottled water is a prompt. I could say bottled water and everyone would write. But I always say that to groups of people. Obviously you love poetry, and probably a lot of you are writers. How many of you are poets here? A lot. So there's always a prompt, and I will say, I'm gonna read a poem that hasn't been published yet, because that's fun. And it's called Background Check, and this is a prompt because when I was teaching at the West Hollywood Library, they said, oh, before you teach, we have to do a background check. I'm like, background check? And she said, yeah, and it will cost you $25 to practice. I'm like, not only are we going to do a background check, but I have to pay for it. So anyway, I wrote this poem for the librarian at the West Hollywood Library, who's Emily, who's going to have twins any second now. And it's going to be published in a magazine called Glimpse in April. Background check. How did they ever find out about the muffins and minute steaks I stole from Pewter Pot when I waitressed in the 70s? Black tights, chambermaid cap. I'd stuff those fat blueberry muffins into my purse, slide freezer frost steaks deep into my backpack. Oh God. Did they know I had no money and Boston was so cold? How'd they discover I crushed a spider with my sock? Lied about being a nanny to a family on a houseboat. Oh, those dinners when the ketchup bottle slid from one end of the table to the other. How'd they discover what happened in Bethesda? They say they can prove it. My porn collection was not hidden securely enough. I have only myself to blame. Who tipped them off to my stolen identity? I was only Julie Freed for a day. These background checks can be tricky. So unless utterly necessary to land the job of your dreams, say no. No, you may not dig into my past. Not unless you're prepared to love whatever you find. Become obsessed. Honor it. Declare it the best background you've ever checked. Yes, unless you wish you had done what I've done, unless you inhale my background like a sumptuous feast, swallow it whole, wait a few hours for your life to become meaningful. So there is a background check, and she was so thrilled I wrote that poem.
Did you get the job?
No. No, I didn't get the job. No, I did, and I love teaching at the West Hollywood Library. It's a great group of people. And so you seem to want to laugh. I had all these really sad, depressing poems to read, but I don't know, maybe I should just toss one in and then, just for fun. Anyway, I did, as Nathan said, I have both these books here. I wore this dress today for you, Mom, which of course has a pink cover, and a book called Sunbathing on Tyrone Power's Grave, which is also here if anyone wants a copy, to buy a copy. I'm very proud of Sunbathing on Tyrone Power's Grave, and it's got poems that aren't all very funny in it, but I'm going to read the first poem in the book. So I had a great teacher, a mentor named Thomas Lux, who passed away a few years ago, and he was my very first teacher at Emerson College back in the 70s, and got me started on this, what's the word we all say now? Journey? It really troubles me, that word, but there I used it. He started me on the journey to writing poetry, and I wrote for a very long time. I taught creative writing at Emerson, and then I stopped. I stopped writing poetry for 20 years. And when I started again, it was like they were all backed up, like airplanes that were like coming out of my mouth, one after another. And I got in touch with them, and I said, Tom, remember me? I'm writing again, and I would love you to look at some of my poems. And he said, well, look, Fruitcake, the warranty is expired. So, but of course he looked at them, and he was very helpful, and he then again became my mentor. So, when I sent him a new collection, which was actually this collection in the works, he said, you're writing a lot about death. And I thought, I am? I really didn't think so. So I wrote this poem for Thomas Lux. He said I wrote about death, and I didn't mean to. This was not my intent. I meant to say how I loved the birds, how watching them lift off the branches, hearing their song, helps me get through the gray morning. When I wrote about how they crash into the small dark places that only birds can fit through, layers of night sky, pipes through drains, how I've seen them splayed across gutters, piles of feathers stuck together by dried blood, how once my car ran over a sparrow. Though I swerved, the road was narrow. The bird, not quick enough, dragged it under my tire as I drove to forget. Bird disappearing part by part, beak, slender feet, fretful, hot. I did not mean to write about death, but rather how when something dies, we remember who we love, and we die a little too. We who are still breathing, we who still have the energy to survive. Oh, thank you so much. Vodka beside water bottle. You know, it's really weird about shaking. Like, I'm not nervous, but my hand is shaking. And there's something that happens when you get up in front of people, you just start shaking. Like my insides are shaking. I can feel, actually I think, no, it's not that. It's a very weird feeling. Even though you all look very friendly. Unsightly. All right, so we did sad. Did you like more sad?
Sure.
You know, how about a political poem?
Yeah, sure.
So, this is, I have my little note that's been to all my poetry readings, but I haven't read this for a long time, and I feel the urge. So, this is from Sunday, the Untitled Chapter's grave, and so back in December 2017, remember that year? The Trump administration banned certain words. The CDC, Center for Disease Control, banned 7 words. Do you remember this? Because that was crazy. They banned 7 words: fetus, transgender, science-based, diversity, vulnerable, entitlement, and evidence-based. These words were banned from the CDC using them. And there was an article about it. And then somebody posted something on Facebook or whatever, like, we should all write a poem using those words. And there again is the prompt, my whole prompt situation. And I did. I wrote a poem. Now, do you remember those words? This poem is called I Am My Own Transgender Fetus. My mother thought I was a lesbian when I came home from college wearing a flannel shirt, fresh from a march across the Boston Common. The 70s, no entitlement back then, no transgender friend. We all hid inside our sleepless nights, smoking fat joints of science-based conclusions, rolling out our private stomach aches, watching evidence stack up higher than we could see. I feel so vulnerable tonight, hungry for diversity. Where is my entitlement? I am my own transgender fetus, floating in a tank with no borders, banging my soft, unformed skull into the glass ceiling, seeking any spray of light as our world rolls backward over a grassless hill of mutant crickets. Button up your collar until your mouth is invisible, all evidence-based, science-based, beautiful, womb-faced lips erased. Who doesn't crave a chance to say banned words? Hear their echo like vapor stain the wall of our lives. Our slurred speech aching for clarity.
Yes.
Yeah, it's time to remember some of this again, I guess. This poem called Alternative Facts. Remember all that? Alternative Facts. The sky is blue because that's the color my child likes to draw it. 2 + 2, if one of the 2's is pregnant, equals 5. The earth is flat. Columbus, a fabulous guy, fell off the side. He was also a loser who didn't build a wall to protect himself. The sales lady with a pencil stuck in her bun caught me borrowing bell-bottoms at Morris Brothers when I was 13. We do not all bleed. In fact, blood is not always blood red. Blood is a different color in different colored bodies. I'm telling you, and so it's true. Facts only work when we need them to. Take this knife and jab it into my guts. Columbus is still inside me, discovering America. I don't know what's possessing me today, reading all these political things here. But all right, 2 more poems. So I'll go to the fun things. From I Wore This Dress Today for You, Mom. So I have been obsessed, I think, just writing poems about my mother, on and on and on and on and on and on. And she died now, I guess, 11 years ago. She did see my first book come out, but I'm not sure she knew it was a book or that it was mine. But still, she held it, and I used to read her poems as I was writing them, so that was good. But this book, I Wore This Dress Today for You, Mom, is a compilation of the poems I wrote that have to do with her over a long period of time, and also have to do with being a mother, which I am also. And a grandmother now. Anyway, that's exciting. So here's a little teeny poem. She's never trusted happiness. Maybe it was something her mother said one morning as the young girl dipped her donut into a glass of whole milk. Powdered sugar still on her lips, her mother tells her, "Don't get used to this." My mother never said anything like that. Completely made up. As everyone thinks poetry is autobiographical, it often is not. You know, we get to make things up too. This poem that I'll end with is probably the closest to the truth of anything I've ever put in a poem. You try to write a poem sometime where everything's true and there's one lie, or everything's a lie and one thing is true. That's a fun exercise. This poem pretty much is everything's true. It's called Different Mothers. I've read about the ones who garden, teach their daughters to cut a rose just above the thorns, so a fresh bud will pop up like toast in time for breakfast. These are different mothers who show their daughters how to plant tomato seeds in the damp earth, tingle when the first green fruit appears, and when they explode into deep red, pick them off the vine, slice them in their sunny kitchens. These are mothers whose daughters learn through the smells of lakes, weeds, pastry dough, have memories of lightning bugs in jars mothers have poked holes into. These are different mothers. I am not one. My mother didn't know about soil or earthworms. City mothers, we know about bus routes, restaurants, Broadway, the people on the 8th floor. Mine taught me to accessorize, bring the ideal hostess gift, have my keys in hand when I enter a building. I have no daughter, but my son can look anyone in the eye, tell them what he's thinking. We eat tomatoes from the grocery. Our roses are store-bought. Different mothers sound better, and I think about what might have been. Calling to the birds, naming the stars, fingers locked together while hiking on hidden trails, cleaning homegrown mint before placing it in tea before bed. I'll flag a cab instead.
Well, thank you, Kim Dower. Can we have another round of applause? So we're going to move to Q&A. I'm going to ask Kim 2 or 3 questions first, and then I'm going to open it up to the floor. So, wow, what a turnout today. Thank you for coming. This is great. All right. So, Kim.
So Nathan.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
For bringing that energy and your wonderful poetry to life in that way. One thing that's so evident by, your personality that I've learnt so far, your stage presence and your poetry is humor. And there clearly feels like often a doorway into the work, and there's other subjects seem like they come up around humor often in the poems that I've read of yours. Would you like to speak to how you feel humor's functioning in your poetry?
How it's functioning?
Yeah.
It laughs. You know, the poems, they laugh to each other. I don't mean to make fun of your question. I feel like, you know, my last 4-week session in West Hollywood, it was about humorous poetry, humor in poetry, and it doesn't mean like funny like Ogden Nash, you know, but it's just putting humor in poetry. And people are having a hard time with it. And I brought in a lot of poems that I think have humor in them, and we would read them, we talk about them. The truth is, if you don't see funny, and you don't think funny, if you're not funny, you're not gonna write funny. You know, I mean, that's just what, you can't force funny. Do you know what I mean? Yes. We all have friends who are not funny. But they know a good joke. They can laugh. They know what's funny, but they won't be making you laugh. Do you know what I mean? But they make you do other things. And you love them, but it's the same about poems. It's like, there's poems we love that aren't funny because they bring you other things. So for me, I can't, humor always gets in there. You know, it just gets in, even when I try to push it out. So all the poems I wrote about my mother, her dementia, her being in the home, all of these things, they all are funny. They have funny things in them because it was easier for me to even deal with the subject matter through humor. So I have a poem called "The People in the Health Food Store Don't Look Healthy." And right, that's funny already. So every time I walk into Erewhon, it looks like, you know, they're going to need to call an ambulance. So that was a funny poem for me to write, but then the poem got very sad and dark. But so humor functions in my poetry by really helping me to get to where I want to be through the funniness of it. Like bottled water. Yeah. You know, thinking, do I put my mother in a home or just get her a caregiver? That's what was on my mind, trying to buy the bottled water, but the poem is about bottled water. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Oh.
That was my journey.
Thank you. Great answer. So something, it didn't come up as much in this reading specifically, but I listened to another interview with you and you're speaking about writing dreams, and that's something that I really relate to because I think dreams are just rich with the symbolism and metaphor creation that you can put into poetry. What do you think I don't know if this is the right word, but like benefits of using dreams to help prompt or write poetry about? Did that come across? Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't make any
Good.
sense. So your questions don't make much sense to me. But no, of course anyway. We know just what he means. And dreams are fabulous prompts. They're prompts. You know, no one wants to read every one of your poems saying, in my dream last night, you know, so we have to be clever and kind of move it out of the dream. But the imagery that we can get from a dream can be very useful. So I used to, when I was younger, I could get up in the middle of the night and write down my dream. And then in the morning, it would be there waiting for me, like a little bird brought me something. And there were a lot of images. It's like when I wake up in the middle of the night from a dream, like, oh, please, just let me fall back to sleep now. And I feel like I'm losing some good things there because dreams have great value. Just use the images, and I'm trying to think of an example. A lot of my poems come from dreams. And I do have a poem I wore this dress today for you, Mom, about dreaming that I was pregnant at 60, and Meryl Streep said, that's too old to be a mother. And I did put that in a poem because I thought it was hilarious. And the poem then becomes something else, just being an older mother and being pregnant, you know, all these things. But that was the prompt for me. That was a great image. You know, a lot of the imagery in our dreams it's very personal. And but I am haunted by a dream I had last night, and I might, use it. So it's everything for a poet is material. Well, for any writer is material, but dreams I think are better for poets because of the surreal aspect. And also it's more of a prompt, you know, if you're writing a novel, I don't know if a dream is very helpful for you, unless it tells you how to end the novel, then it's very helpful. But yeah, did I answer that question well?
I don't remember my questions when I asked them, so I'm just going to say yes because it was an interesting answer.
Okay.
So that's all that matters, I think. I'll ask maybe something that's less wordy. You spoke about, you know, poets can be non-autobiographical, but many people believe that what you write is biographical. How much do you think that we can take liberties to be completely away from the autobiographical? And how do you think that serves a poem? That was way more worded than I thought.
That I really don't understand.
Yeah, okay.
But I know what you mean.
Just speak about non-autobiographical something in poetry.
Well,
That was last night's dream.
well, I will say that there's an image. I grew up in this building on 96th Street in Central Park West, and it had a very interesting lobby, or very ornate lobby. And I was talking to someone the other day about the prices of apartments in New York and Los Angeles, and you know, so these things will come up in your dream. But in my dream last night, when I walked in, the lobby was someone's apartment. These people had 2 beds, and it was the lobby, and there was a lamp, and I'm like, there's an apartment in the lobby now? What happened to the lobby? And they said, well, we needed the extra apartment, so we put it in the lobby. And so anyway, I can't get that image out of my head. It was a very nice apartment too. But so here's the thing, and I think this is a serious answer for all of us who write, etc. In a poem, I always say, the facts and the details do not need to be true, but the feeling and the emotion does. You can't make up a feeling, you can't make up an emotion. So the feeling that one gets from reading the poem, you want that to be real. And it needs to be real from you to get that from your reader. But the details and the facts and the build-up and the story does not need to be true. We can make any of that up, you know. So, and honestly, I wore this dress today for you, Mom, is there's a lot of things from my life in this book, but my book coming out next year, I sure hope people don't think it's true. So that book is very different, and it's called What She Wants, and it's a book about obsessive love. And it's gonna have a lot of poems in it that people are gonna wonder, oh, wow, where'd that come from? And I'm gonna keep talking about, my poems are not autobiographical. And that's the best I can do here, right?
Yeah, no, understand, that's great,
So-
yeah. I'll keep the microphone with you because we're gonna open some questions up to the floor. Has anyone got some extremely clear questions?
I'd like to follow up with that. So where's the inspiration for that? It's not autobiographical. It's obviously like, well, no conjecture, but where's the inspiration for all that coming from? Dreams, erotica, watching 50 Shades
I'm
of
glad
Grey?
you're asking me this. It's gonna give me a chance to practice the lies I'm gonna tell. I don't have to think about that. The inspiration comes from events in my life that don't necessarily add up to what the poem is about. How's that? Like that?
Yeah. Aspirational, sort of?
Well, you know, I've lived a long life.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
It's a prompt. Anyone else?
What are your thoughts about the impact of artificial intelligence on poem writing?
I don't give it one thought.
Yay.
I don't care. It doesn't affect me. I don't read anything about it. Go with God. I don't even know what it means. And if I see anything written about it, I just throw it in the garbage or I don't read it. I don't care.
One further question, if I may. You wrote a poem about bottled water.
Yeah.
Have you considered writing one about bottled alcohol?
What?
A rum versus a,
Oh, I see. Oh, I go to the corner liquor store. Do I pick Kettle One or Tito's or Poland or? I mean, that is a problem. You know, which vodka do I choose? But the 8th grade teacher wouldn't use that in her class. So, you know, but it is confusing with vodka. As a vodka drinker, it's like, well, you know, someone told me a long time ago, drink Kettle One, it's the only vodka that won't give you a hangover. So I drink Kettle One, I love Kettle One, but then someone else told me, drink Tito's. It's so smooth, you won't feel it, you won't, so I bought Tito's, and that's like a train wreck. You have 2 shots and you don't even know where you are. But you don't remember feeling anything going down your throat. And then, you know, then there's potato vodka versus, I don't know, other kinds of fake vodka. And so, I don't know, I might write that poem. Thank you. I'll dedicate it to you, the gentleman in the back of the room.
1 or 2 more? Yeah.
Are you related to Larry David or Jerry Seinfeld?
I wish that I could get some money finally from somebody. But you know, it's interesting. Thank you. I take that as a compliment.
No, it is.
Thank you. But I will say that Jerry Seinfeld said something once that first it annoyed me, but I realized it's very true. He thinks that well, there's a relationship between stand-up and poetry. But you know, the poetry is the boring form of stand-up. He said sometime, and it's really interesting because a lot of poems, just like his shows, they're about nothing.
Yeah.
A lot of wonderful poems are about nothing, or bottled water. You could, and that is very Seinfeld-ish, isn't it? But I wish I had his money.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the title. Is it Sunbathing on Tyrone Power's Grave?
Yes.
Was that from a poem in the book?
Yes, so this is that's true. So there's, if you've ever been, there's a cemetery, thanks for asking that, because I love to tell. In Hollywood, on Santa Monica Boulevard, there's a cemetery called Hollywood Forever. Who's ever been there? Yeah, of course. So it's a famous cemetery, and now it's very fancy. They do films, you can go to have a picnic and sit on top of dead people and watch movies and all of this. But when I first moved to Los Angeles from New York, Boston to here in 1977, the Hollywood Forever Cemetery was a dump. You know, like a lot of things in LA weren't perky like they are now, although they're now like a dump again. But anyway, that cemetery, it was very sort of dumpy, and you could just walk through it, and no one was there, no one cared, and like everything was just weird there. But they have a lot of movie stars, and Tyrone Power has a gorgeous, it's not more than a grave when it's raised up. Anyway, this beautiful slab of marble, and the swans go around it, and it's gorgeous. And I was still sunbathing back then, and I used to literally bring a towel and sunbathe on Tyrone Power's grave. Because the sun would come down, it's really hot, the marble was hot. It sounds really creepy, I'm sorry. So there is a poem in here called Sunbathing on Tyrone Power's grave, and I don't think you could do that anymore now.
Okay, last one.
What is your, when you're in the perfect mood, what is your favorite way of writing, and what's your favorite rituals to get you?
I wish there was something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A poem, as many of you know, it more grabs you. Well, there's 2 things. One is the sitting down every day and just seeing what comes out. I really, frankly, I can't do that. It's a lot, I can't do that. I can't make myself try to start to write something. Makes me sad, because if nothing comes out, you feel like despondent. But a poem will grab me, and it could be anywhere. An idea for a poem, and then I just go to work. So if I'm driving in the car and I hear on the radio, I steal a lot of headlines from KNX. I listen to that horrible news thing, like they're taking chocolate milk off the menu. That was the news story a few years ago. And I was like, they're taking chocolate milk off the menu, and it was from a public school. I literally pulled over, took out my pad, and wrote, they're taking chocolate milk off the menu. What next? And now, when I get home, then the ritual begins. It's Tito's or Kettle One, no, I'm kidding. But then I'll sit there and then I'll take what I wrote in my pad and I'll type it out, and then, so you just have to be, I'm open to anything that I hear or see, and I write it down, and I hope that the poem will come from it. That's my ritual. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Kim Dower, everyone. Thank you. Just before we have a break, Kim has some books up here for sale, which we can do at the end of the event. So why don't we take a break for 5 minutes? If you'd like to sign up for the open mic and haven't already, there's a sign up sheet at the back, and then we'll start sharing more poetry.